Welcome back, and everything is as it should be. It's back on track. There's no mammoth upsets. Legacy taking out game number 2. Skimmy, well done. Welcome back. And you'll be able to see that I changed so that we're not matching Lumberjack Bros.
That's interesting. Were you told off?
No, I just told myself off. Just a fashion faux pas that we never saw each other on camera before we started.
I like how we have this intrinsic value of this looks good, I want to wear it, and then we kind of get on the camera. We don't even see each other during rehearsals, right? And then we get on when it's live, and it's like, oh, we're wearing the same things.
Yeah, no.
So I'm glad you stepped up to the occasion and didn't make me have to strip during a cast. That would have been interesting.
That would have been very interesting. But we've already had one naked person on the cast today already. I don't think you were even here for that, but my son wandered in with no pants on, so that was exciting.
Oh,
someone else who's not wearing any pants, Rusty, because we'll never know.
Yeah, freedom. I was going to ask something of you guys, if it's okay, because I did actually spend that entire game, which seemed like a quick one, just try to troubleshoot and get myself back on air. Could you, in 30 seconds or less, just tell me what happened in that game, just so that we're all up to date?
Skimmy, go.
Well, you see, Rusty, the first 10 minutes I talked about you, and we had a beautiful on-screen memorial, and Twitch chat mourned your death.
Okay,
there were
but
many
that's not
Fs in
in-game
chat.
stuff.
Well, I'm trying to give you the full narrative, much like a good book that you cannot put down. I need to give you the full spectrum of this game. So, obviously that happened to start things off with, which was beautiful. It was an occasion to behold. But then once we jumped into the game, they tried to go for an echo, once again from Prayless. He looked to try and figure out the nightmare PTSD style comp. They weren't able to find it. Kasten just never came online. And, Tally and Rage just ran the show. They got kills, they got damage, they got objectives. And ultimately they found triple inhibitors off back-to-back pushes. So the game was pretty much said and done. And the game ended with Winions.
Ended with Winions. And also you missed a Bard pick, buddy.
Well, I don't want to say the Bard pick because, I can't see the Rusty reaction. So I can't see if he's crying, if he's smiling, if he has any pants on. So really, Nick, doesn't really matter.
Rusty, doesn't matter?
I saw the Bard pick, and that was the moment that I disconnected.
Yeah, good.
No.
Good. Honestly, from our end, it looked more like you just had a temper tantrum when you saw it, and you were like, I'm out. I'm not doing this. So there you go. Congratulations, Legacy. We are getting ready for game number 3. It's PGG versus Auto, which, of course, is why Spawn is not with us. He's with his team, getting ready to draft for game 3 against PGG. And Auto and PGG, both a lot to play for. But before we get to game 3, it's time for a different number. It's time for the 5-stack. Oh, baby. This evening's 5-stack comes in from Persephorus, I want to say.
Our favourite friend.
Our favourite friend. Top 5 champs to be OPL casters. The top 5 League of Legends champions to be OPL casters.
Oh.
Now, normally this would be something that I would go, there's a structure to this show. There's a theme. There's a tone to this show. Today, it's all been thrown out the window. So I would like to start it off by saying that given all the mic issues and audio issues we've been having, any champ with silence would be helpful. So we're talking your Sorakas, we're talking your reworked fiddlesticks. That's something that we could get behind to have a silence-heavy champion would be helpful for at least today's broadcast.
I like that. That's a great narrative, Cassidy, and obviously, could be that edge lord on stream. I was thinking, obviously, announcer Draven. I feel like it's the most obvious one. You'd be that outrageous loud voice. That'd probably be me. Do my hair up, look all outrageous, look all crazy, scream at a screen, and get paid to do it. I think that fits the narrative.
Announcer Draven's a good pick.
Yeah, Draven's an easy one though, right? Because he's got a skin holding a microphone. He basically is an announcer in one of those. So I think that's just the free victory. Who would you pick? I think you would want to pick someone that fits the personality of the broadcast. So is there someone... Actually, you know what? I've changed my mind. Heimerdinger, because he's just a tech whiz.
Yeah, we definitely need Heimerdinger today, for sure.
He'd build me a computer, bro. He did build me internet. He'd sort that out. Who needs NBN? You've got Donga.
He could deploy it for you, mate.
You've got Donga. That's what you need. There's...
I love that.
I'm gonna put I'm just seeing in chat. GL Phoenix says Heimer is definitely a color caster. I can see that.
Big brain.
I'm gonna throw out there a Gragas because he's so intrinsic to the broadcast in terms of the painting. It's lived on forever. I would submit Gragas as an option. Because he's basically the fifth member of the team anyway. He's in every broadcast, multiple versions of the painting. So I feel like he fits in well.
He's also known as a rabble rouser, so I feel like he actually just generally fits us the best.
Fits. Before today, we rise a lot of rabble. Today, obviously, we're getting buried underneath it. Who else do we like?
Trying to think. I was like trying to think of like what narrative I want to go for. Like, do you want to go for like edgelords? Do you want to go for like cutesy look? Do you want to go for? I mean, are we? What is the criteria, Nick? You know, this is what I'm looking for. Are we talking about the best voices? Are we talking about the best skills, the looks? You know, the on-screen charisma.
I would just say that if it's not a looks thing, because there's plenty, like everyone's beautiful, you know, and also there's a lot of League of Legends champs who are just really ugly. So you don't want to not include them just based off a looks thing.
Maybe we go like Teemo for the OCS. You know, he could be like the Scouts code. He just brings the young bucks into the fold of things, and you know, if you can't handle the Teemo commentator, you know, professional life might not be cut out for you.
What, like he's the most irritating one, and no one actually likes working with him, and so it's like he's the trial by fire that you need to go through.
He's the trial by fire, yeah. You know, you strive to be so good in the OCS so that you can make it to the OPL, so that Teemo no longer commentates your games. Imagine that.
No, that works for me. Rusty, any ideas?
Sorry, I'm processing the logic in that. Like, I get it, but I don't get it.
I always confuse you, Rusty. That's what I'm here to do, mate. I was employed for that job.
I would say every time I pick Teemo in a game, no one is happy to have me on their team. So I think that's like, it's that trial by fire. You know how when you start out in a new job and all the people who are in it beforehand give you that like hazing where it's like, well, I had to come up this way, and so this is the way that you have to come up. That's what Teemo is. Teemo's a trial by fire.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I've come up with an answer though, because Phoenix in chat said that Heimerdinger could be a color caster. Garen is the play-by-play caster, because Garen is notoriously that type of character that just yells all the time for no reason. He's just always yelling. So I feel like he would fit the play-by-play role perfectly. Like, even if he doesn't know what he's yelling about, he's going to yell really loudly. Then you've got the Heimerdinger to work with him. I think that's the duo.
Okay, so I think we've got it. We've got ourselves Garen. So there, our 5-stack is Fiddlesticks for the silence, Announcer Draven because it's already part of the job, Heimerdinger to solve the tech issues. We've got Garen as the shouty play-by-play, and then it's a flip-up between Gragas and Teemo. But I like the idea of Teemo. Gragas is already part of it. These 5 champions take over the OPL. Gragas painting's still going to be sitting there in the background. So we'll add Teemo there as a trial by fire to see if people can actually make it through a broadcast because he's just so annoying. So there you go. Fiddlesticks, Draven, Heimerdinger, Teemo, Garen. That is your 5-stack of League of Legends champs that you would want to become OPL casters. I want to hear from you guys what your picks are. Let me know on Twitter at nickboy@gmail. That's the email address. That's the completely different segment. At nickboy on Twitter, or just put it here in the chat. Give us the 5 champs that you would like to be OPL casters and why. 1 to 5 champs, doesn't matter, and we'll read out the best ones next seg. It's time for game number 3. Speaking of next seg, it's PGG versus Order. Very quickly, Rusty, who are we tipping for this one? Because both teams need it to happen this weekend.
Yeah, it's a good question, Nick. I think if you're basing it off last week's performances, I would never tip Pentanet.gg, just to put it simply. But we also know that they can have very sporadic performances week to week, and so it's very hard to actually predict who the winner would be. However, Order, pretty momentum-based team, and so I would have to give them the edge before we see any gameplay.
I agree. This is the pointy end of the split, and Order shine at the pointy end. It's time for PGG versus Order, and the Maccas champ select.
Feeling the heat? Grab a pineapple or pineberry frozen Fanta mix at Macca's. With 36 flavours, it's the largest range in Australia. Grab one for only $1. A little goes a long way at Macca's.
It is our third game of the day as we get cracking on into this one. Pentanet.gg taking on Order, who have already secured themselves with a spot. Now they are playing a full seeding. Pentanet Order play for them though, Rusty. They've still got to get themselves through the gauntlet, still got to get themselves with those crucial victories to pull apart from the likes of Gravitas and Avant, who have already fallen down victim today.
Yeah, Order securing playoffs. They haven't secured their seeding just yet, and I believe this is the game to actually determine that. So we'll get to see how Order performs in this one. And when you look at both of these teams, Skimmy, and you contrast their performances as of late, Pentanet.gg have lost their last 5 on the trot. And it hasn't been the best showing for them at the moment. Order have always been a pretty sporadic team as far as performances go. They've actually won 5 of their last 8 games, and the 3 that they lost were back-to-back against the top 3 teams. So they played Legacy, Direwolves, and Chiefs in that order. That was a really hard week and a half for them, right? But any other team that isn't those 3, they've actually beaten. And so this is one of those matchups when you actually take those stats into consideration. Order come in pretty well off.
Yeah, you could definitely say they are the favourites going into this one, and quite rightfully so. Pentanet really not having the best of weeks last time, and definitely leaving a lot left for desired. It was an interesting week, really. They had a few different ideas to try and execute, but just weren't able to really get the conviction across that we've known and sort of come accustomed to, dropping to the likes of Gravitas and Mammoth on the same weekend. So really looking for that week off break, looking to bounce themselves back into it. With the bans as they are, it allows for a Wukong first pick here.
Yeah, and Wukong has been spoken towards. Now, Spawn, the coach of Order, has been outspoken in saying just how strong he thinks this champion is. So that leads me to believe that either the Wukong was a high priority to be traded for what is now the Senatarm Kenshin response, or Order have an answer that now that Wukong has been out for more than a week, that they have discovered.
That's going to be interesting to see what that discovery is, as you say, that allows them to get the Senna and the Tarm Kenshin. The response is going to be disgusting in the sense of it's going to be the Kog'Maw and the Lulu. Now, we've seen this before when Legacy ran it, where they had the free frontline tanks to provide so much protection and space for it to work within. Obviously, Wukong functioning very similar in that capacity for the knock-up with his double ultimate charge, but it will mean that a lot of high-priority picks are locked in here with Renekton, the first one, before that second pick ban phase takes place.
Yeah, and you may actually still get some top laners banned away here by Order, potentially. Of course, right now it is just going to be the LeBlanc as the first ban. The reason I bring that up is we have seen Wukong actually be flexed between roles, and it does look like it's a strong top lane champion, but it has worked in the jungle role, although at the same time, it didn't seem as powerful. So with the Renekton locked in for Swiper, I think Renekton is actually just an outstandingly strong champion right now. Blade of the Royal King changes, in my opinion, tipped him a little bit to the too strong side of the coin while he was teetering on the edge of very good balance. So now we'll see where they choose to go. Pentanet.gg on their side as to how they want to round out their composition, because Wukong in the jungle with a Kog'Maw Lulu to stand behind him is already disgusting for team fighting.
Absolutely, and they've decided that they want to get rid of some incredibly strong mid-lane mages they can control and sort of really dictate the situation to make it a 4v5 right off the bat. They're going to now hover over the Nasus, which would be a very interesting pick here. Give them a solid scaling option to match that of the Kog'Maw. The response from Pentanet was to take away the Jarvan and the Elise, some strong engage, some ability to really get on top of that Kog'Maw. They were baiting us with the Nasus. It will be the Sejuani.
Yeah, Sejuani is actually probably the best choice. There's tank champions left, right, and center. Ornn and Sejuani are two of the best for dealing with a Kog'Maw Lulu, just because their engage can be committal, but it could also be long range and non-committal. And that's the most important thing, against something like a Kog'Maw, baiting out his QSS. If it's a cleanse, baiting out the cleanse, trying to make sure that spells are blown so you don't just die to the Kog'Maw in a front to back engage. Is an important thing. So Order gone for a pretty smart choice there in the jungle role, picked a tank champion. Now we wait to see their last pick. Is no surprises on the Pentanet.gg side, as more supportive champions and more frontline champions for the Kog'Maw to survive.
No, we're going to get a Wukong jungle this game, and yeah, as you say, it's going to be the Karma, so mid lane Karma to give themselves a reliable amount of speed to jump themselves in, obviously provide them with that crucial shield, but Order round out their comp once again with the coveted Harry Azir. Such a strong pick for him. Always finds success on it, despite not always getting the victory, able to output so much pressure with it regardless. He's played it twice so far, and we look forward to seeing if he can put in another solid performance again. Right now I'm looking at what Order have, and he got a lot of responses, a lot of ways to slow down and prevent Pentanet from jumping on in. I feel like burden of execution is really quite exciting, I guess, really, for Pentanet to try and make sure that they can keep Praetor alive, because it's not going to be the standard 3-man tank frontline up we saw before.
Yeah, making sure Praetor survives is obviously your #1 prerogative here if you are Pentanet.gg. And I think, like, towards that Azir pick for Hayri being the 3rd one of the split, he's probably the most important champion in this champ select for the side of Order. You know, now they've got scaling, which is something that the Cogmore was always going to have, and you were just a bunch of meat shields standing in front. You know, you've got your Sejuani, your Tahm Kench, and your Renekton. There's some threat there, but at a certain point, Cogmore is just untouchable and murders you very quickly. So that Azir is the wild card thrown into the mix. And when you think about the composition of Pentanet.gg, how they want to play this out, it's very obvious, right? Frontline stands in front of a Cogmore, but now Order can effectively replicate that exact style with the composition of their own. And so it does come down to a battle of, like, who can scale faster or better, who can execute better, and there's actually more nuance to this team fight style of compositions they have in the draft from that last pick of Order.
I think what's interesting to me is to see the evolution of Pentanet, where we've talked about at great lengths how strong Praetor is, the amount of damage he can output, how he can always be sort of the funnel target for this team, but to now see a composition which is really much the case of protect Praetor is not something that we've seen too commonly come out for them in Split 1. So whether or not that identity changes, they sort of revert to a turret style tactic again, where they're all coming to him to assist, or if he is going to be, I don't want to say falling victim, but if he is forced to sort of rotate and group with the rest of the team, we will have to wait and find out. It's game number 3, Pentanet.gg taking on Order. Order play for here as they look to establish themselves in the playoff run coming out next week.
Yeah, mentioned earlier today, but every game is crucial now, being in the last week of the OPL, the Super Week as well. Every team with 3 games to play, and so every game is a must-win for a lot of these teams fighting for that last remaining playoff spot. That is Pentanet.gg, who can still challenge Order potentially if they win this one for even the 4th place spot, getting seeding for that first round of the playoffs. Very crucial.
Incredibly crucial, given that you will have the benefits of the lower bracket for a second chance to go into this one. It's all to play for these teams as they get into this game. We've seen the Tahm Kench Center a few times, but predominantly here by Chiefs. It's the first time that Order have brought it to the table, but they are one of the teams that have been the most creative in the bot lane, where they showcased the likes of the Aurelia Engage. I suppose second to what Mammoth have done when they've brought out the likes of a Heimerdinger and a Blitzcrank.
Yeah, and with this bottom lane they've gone for, you don't necessarily have to go for the Tahm Kench with the center. We have seen in other regions other champions, but the thing that the Tahm Kench obviously provides is safety for that ADC as well. And while it does do that, the risk is that the opposing team could do exactly this. Legacy have done it before. They insta-lock the Lulu Cogmore, and they bully and trade with their lane opponents aggressively. So now Ayla has to go for the teleport in his lane, regardless of anything else. He has to do it for the matchup, because he's probably going to be forced to back once or twice from just raw damage that the Cogmore will do onto him if he wants to last hit. And you're already seeing it's level 1, how much damage Praetor could do.
Look what comes out right there. Yes, Rare will have the heal online with his Q, but it's just going to be a lot of mana expended trying to get himself up. You can see it used there. It's not going to do much, but this is obviously the threat of the poke that comes out from this composition, really shunting what this comp wants to try and achieve.
And Rogue playing this out properly as well. The second Rare uses his Q. It is the major part of his trade pattern. He goes aggressively, uses what was normally a shield onto Rare directly to try and keep him low on health, but potions at level 1, you know, they're going to add up to be a little bit too much, and he'll still be full health. So null and void in the bottom lane just for the current moment. For me, it is still going to be about these junglers and where they're able to have an impact on the map. Right now, Sejuani has pathing to bot side rather, from a top side start, and so it seems like once again these junglers will be converging on the same side of the rift, and it makes sense. You know, you want to help this bottom lane for sure.
I'm really curious to see what sort of output Sully can bring to the table right now, having played 6 times on the Lee Sin, this time playing with the Monkey King. He's got double buffs. He sees 2 crucial members. The flash is burnt from Rare, who locks him in place, and he flashes as the root connects. That's a first blood, and a double kill is achieved, as it's the dream start here for Pentanet.gg.
Yeah, very easy for them. One thing that Pentanet have always had going for them, regardless of the results, is that Sully has been very active on the map early in the game. Does often find himself getting those early kills, and he's able to do that exact thing in this one. as they start off nicely with a 2-0 lead and gold in all of the right places.
All of the right places is where Sully is as well right now, because he picks up the scuttle after that successful gank. Now going for an invade to take away the blue, and Rare with the game sense figures that something must be happening. The vision will spot out that nobody is nearby, going towards the lane as opposed towards the jungle mid side. He's going to continue to go towards this, but the bot lane is going to respond, and blue buff will not be taken. So wasn't able to achieve everything, Rusty, but sure achieved a lot.
Yeah, no smite there for Sully, so he wasn't actually able to secure that blue buff. Unfortunately for him, it was a nice response there from Order, but it was also, you know, a very measured and calculated play there from Order across the board. Only chooses to steal Raptors, and then crosses to topside Scuttle, knowing that his team will be able to defend that blue buff. And now he can take Krugs, get a full reset off if he would like, and go to what is already a full bottom side of camps to clear. So it's a small detail, but it is a nice calculation there out of the Order squad as a whole to enable that to happen.
Well, we're keeping our eyes fixated on top lane right now, where Swiper is finding himself a healthy 10 CS advantage, but Sully is coming here, waiting for the gank attempt as that lane does crash into tower. Is he going to decide to commit to this one?
Renekton though, Skimmy. I mean, he's got flash and he's got a free stun that is targeted. And you have no disengage on the tower, so I think realistically he was actually looking for pressure at the Krug camp and finds that it's already gone. Sully, as again, one step ahead is only, and so he does actually just choose to recall.
Gets the recall, going to go back to lane, and look how many control wards are in the inventory of Pentanet.gg right now. Every single member having multiple to their name. Vision establishment is going to be a big one right now, and this is something that they've always had as a slight advantage over Order in this matchup, so if they can utilize this to get themselves back into this one, more important, I suppose, of anything, in a composition that is so reliant on one member, they cannot afford to lose anybody.
Yeah, most definitely, and having that early vision control makes you think that they will be setting up for an early Drake take or something of the likes. You know, they keep teleport for Biopanther in top lane as well, only expending the teleport in mid lane for get back. So it is very clear that they will be looking potentially towards an objective as soon as possible and make that play, get something going for them on the board in the way of objectives. As right now, casual farming, like mentioned, isn't the biggest deal for either team. They're very happy to be scaling up, get those first items, and even beyond that for certain members of the teams, as Order are the ones to start off this objective.
They are indeed, and it is completely blind right now. Pentanet have not been able to find a situation in which they can get in there to lay down the law of their own. They've set up very defensive control wards, as you can see in that top rush towards the ramp, and that's going to be the first Drake that's achieved here by Order. It's going to be a Cloud one, so a bit of ult reduction, which will definitely fit nicely into this composition where when those ultimates are popped, the movement speed capacity is going to find a lot of value. Every single member, really, maybe except for Senna, will enjoy that.
Yeah, most definitely. Now waiting for that next map flip, Skimmy, as is customary in League of Legends at the moment. Who will want to actually flip up for the Herald when that spawns, and will that actually be something that they consider doing? Order have been one of the teams that would be happy to trade turret plates for a Herald flip, and I think that in contrast to that, however, when you've got the Kog'Maw, you'd be very happy to have him farm and have him take turret plates as a trade for a Rift Herald. So the reason I bring this up is I'm not sure either team will hard force that flip. I actually am not sure who would commit to doing that one first, so I actually suspect that you'll have junglers going towards top lane, maybe look for ganks up there independently of the bot lane 2v2, as they may just both be happy soaking up experience and farm to keep getting gold in their pockets.
And that seems to be exactly what's going on right now. You can see a very good trade going out there from Biopanther's Aatrox, but both junglers are still on that top side of the map. The blue buff was now given over to Get Back to even out Azir's pressure in the mid lane as well and keep him in touching distance of the CS as Harry gets further and further away from his lane counterpart. But the junglers stay topside, always considering the fact that, you know, that Rift Herald will be spawning in 10 seconds. Can't afford to give up second objectives for free.
Yeah, we're starting to hit that point in mid lane though, where Karma gets a little bit more pressured for lane priority than it is at the start of the game. You know, just you have to throw your Qs, and it is the Athene's Unholy Grail rush here from Get Back. So his damage is actually a little bit lower than that of Hayri. And already you can see a little bit more priority. Hayri's already left his mid lane once. This is now the second time in consecutive waves where he's been able to leave. And that priority is why they're going to be starting up this Rift Herald. No response there from the opposing team. when you look at Sully, he's actually pathing towards his red buff. So once again, Order one step ahead of their opponents through the smaller details to continue to net objectives.
As you say, yeah, sorted down bot side, and both top and mid are pushed on out so they can freely rotate towards this Rift Herald and get themselves the second objective of the game to open towards more objectives, more structures, more gold impact. As Pentanet so far are actually the ones in the lead with a 1k net income advantage. So not a bad start for them, and definitely what you want for a composition that is all about scaling.
Yeah, you'd find a decent amount of that advantage through the bot lane 2v2, I would have to imagine, above all else. You know, you can see the CS difference is pretty negligible when you look at both champions outright, but Kog'Maw being 101, Wukong having a kill as well, those smaller details can be significant, and there's also been a couple of cannons missed there just quietly from Ayla, as we were watching the bottom lane earlier. It pains me to admit things like that, but yes, those numbers actually add up quick.
Well, this could be a massive bit of punishment right now, as only Show's face in the top lane is going to burn a flash out of Biopanther, and now they can go towards this turret. But not they're going to use the Rift Herald on this one if they're just going to look to achieve a couple of plates for free, regardless. Good pressure found on the top side, and it is going to result in a teleport being used as well.
Yeah, has to hold this one, and unfortunately, you know, that teleport's fine to use at this point in the game. Unless they were looking to make a play on the opposite side of the map in bot lane, because realistically they've been one step behind on these objective takes, and Order continuing to control the map regardless of the gold difference between these teams means that there's not a lot to teleport for directly. So in a comfortable position overall here, Order through map control, and the risk is that that continues. So that was...
Oh, that's a cute little play.
Yeah, just to harass though.
Using the ward as a means of extending out that cannon, finding a little bit of poke. Doesn't really account for much at this stage, as you can see, already back to full health. Little tips like that can definitely come in clutch at the highest level.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, the ward's dead. There's a control ward in the bush that enables the fish to see it. So at the end of the day, he got 15 gold for it, and you wouldn't be too happy with that one in the end. Now I'm missing
Give him a free creep.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see, Rusty, given the nature of the games of last week, how Order were always looking for fights, especially when Dragon was up, and we talked about it being the curse, if you will. Whether or not that week-long break has forced them to go, look, it was a little bit ridiculous last week, maybe having a little bit too much fun, forcing fights at the wrong time. Regardless, this game is definitely looking a lot better to start with, and the second attempt on the top side will result in them now completing that turret, and it's the first one of the game.
So the question that you've asked is totally fair, because we have been tracking that from Order for a little while. But the consideration is that Pentanet.gg are such a risk-averse team once they start to get to the mid-game that we don't know if we'll see that. This is a nice little take from them there super early in Order. Maybe the ones to start this one off.
They will be, as Sully's going to be the one to spin to win, to lock these members up in place. Two go in place and only jumps on in. Now the center cannon comes on out to pad them up. Damage goes down, shields go up. Swiper forced to be devoured and forced to disengage. The artillery is huge right now, but Harry finds a massive shunt as he looks to take out one. He will find a first kill, and they want to connect on towards Get Back as well, which does come on clean. Both the carries get the kills. The damage is done. Dragon, well, doesn't really account for much now.
No, there is at least the trade there from Order. They're able to force that one back, get some kills, get some extra gold into their pockets for it as well. And for just a moment, there was just a glimmer of hope for Pentanet.gg, even though they were on the full disengage. The Praetors' damage was surprisingly already that high, but that's where the Tahm Kench negated the one target he was focusing, made him reassess, and then once again, Hayri is going to be there, even though a little bit late, early enough to make sure that they're able to secure those kills. So Order continuing with more forward momentum, just losing an objective in the middle there, being a couple of seconds late.
I can't wait to see Harry, you know, in the playoffs play this pick again, because every time you get it, you know what you're getting, and it's just flashy plays.
Yeah, most definitely. His comfort on the champion as well as, you know, Swiper's the one who gets a lot of damage put onto him here. It is, you know, the Blade of the Ruin King build for a lot of Renekton's at the moment, so very squishy. But of course, Hayri comes in, uses all of his mana to secure that kill, and then Get Back, unfortunately for him, is stuck next to Rare 7 at Ayla, the bottom lane of Order, sitting in that mist.
Just giving them that extra factor to find that initiation. Yes, only can lock them in place, but then the displacement afterwards, absolutely mesmerizing to get those two kills, then find a plate in the bottom lane as well. And Now the gold lead, whilst it was looking desirable in favour of Pentanet beforehand, Order now find themselves with a 2k lead.
Yeah, and also finding themselves the item spikes here, Skimmy, in a very good position overall. 2 Executioners callings are going to be picked up on the side of Order. Swiper for his respective lane opponent. They've actually both got one. And then Rare, which is, you know, one of the major advantages of a Senna in general, being with a Tahm Kench, is that you can just rush Executioner's calling. And first of all, you're an AD champion in the support role, which is hard found. So it's a very efficient item for him. And then, of course, you've got long-range damage that not only procs the Glacial Augment with your Q, but applies the Grievous Wounds. And you're against that Kog'Maw who wants to heal through everything. You're against a Karma who has a heal on that shield. And if the Aatrox gets into the mix as well. So it's a very efficient pickup for them. And you would say starting to become very powerful across the board. Not to say that PGG are weak by any means. They've actually had their item spikes for their first items for a little while.
Yeah, and we've yet to see one of those full team skirmishes. We saw a glimpse of what potentially could take place, but in a choke spot like that, very hard to maneuver yourself and set things up quite nicely for the AoE collapse. But now we're going to see the team look to group themselves up with the duo now sitting in mid, turret style if you will, and wanting to respond back to Praetor. And you know, you look at this item build for the Kog'Maw, you go, yes, the Blade of Ruin King is there, fantastic, but every single item spike, every single time you see another dagger come online, you just start to get a little bit more concerned and thinking, you know, there's a moment in this game where he can literally 1v9.
Yeah, it's one thing to have a Blade of the Ruin King, but the second there's a Guinzu's on there as well, you've got your W active, you're just a powerhouse, you're frightening for anyone to go near. And this does come back to the point about Swiper being a pretty fragile build on the champion now. Renekton, pretty much prolific Blade of the Ruin King user all the time. Kog'Maw's just going to cut through him, just going to tear through his health. It's going to be no problems whatsoever. And so he needs to be very respectful and very careful with his engages and with his forward movements towards that Kog'Maw. And that's something that all of Order will have to respect in a certain amount. You know, Sejuani before the Stone Plate is there, or without a passive available, and Tahm Kench without the feast there, or the eat rather to devour one of your teammates if they've stepped up too far. You need to be very particular with how you approach the Pentanet.gg composition, but if you do it right, then you make it work.
I'm interested to see how, as the game progresses, if Swiper's sort of role in these fights actually changed a little bit, you know, empowering his W to shred through those shields that you'd imagine are all going to be solely focused on the Kog'Maw, and whether or not that is a defining factor for them to, you know, expose him in those back lines and really split him apart from the protection that the squad offers. So it's going to be an interesting game. But regardless, Order will find utility in the mid lane. They drop the Rift Herald a second time, unable to take mid lane turret, however, but definitely within critical numbers.
Yeah, that was a force in mid lane for sure. I don't know if the summoning of the Herald was ultimately that necessary, but it does bring numbers and bring attention towards mid lane, which in the end is all they really needed. You know, you've got Hayri playing in bot lane. He's about to teleport down there to stay there as well, because priority needs to be secured for this Drake to be taken. And so they are able to at least secure the bot lane turret. Once again, they'll go that lead a little bit longer. And Swiper just going to keep Bio occupied, make sure he can't get the Drake.
Yep, and he's going to be occupied enough to force a flash out, so he does not get rooted and placed there by the Aatrox, but that buys enough time, as you say, to secure that next objective. Order will pick themselves up an Infernal Drake to their name. It'll be interesting to see how many more of those they can get to their name to really try and even out the damage component that this Kog'Maw will offer. Obviously, the more that swing between the two of them, the longer this game will go, and you'd imagine that really does favour what Pentanet are trying to achieve.
Yeah, I think at this point in the game, though, you have to be really respectful of this Azir above all else. There's the risk of him pushing. So, Hayri's abilities could backfire if you're throwing an Aatrox or a Wukong into your team, but at the same time, it's a super powerful ability to push people away from your current damage output, which is very high. But honestly, there's not a lot to do on the map right now. Skimmy, we are in dead air as far as objectives are concerned, and so right now mid lane outer turrets are the only real standing objective that both teams want desperately. But the side lane outer turrets are still there for Pentanet.gg to split push and get. So that's where the hard part comes in for them, is they're the easiest to take but hardest to get to, because Order is constantly pressuring for this turret that they just got.
Finally get it down. Mid lane has been broken. And this will mean that there's a little bit less protection for these members in blue. to find that farm with the protection of those turrets. I was just thinking as you were talking there, is there a world in which, yes, obviously we know that the Azir is the major scaling component here of Order, and obviously the Infernal Drakes would benefit him just as much, but does it get to a point where Praetov's Kog'Maw is just so damn strong that before Harry can even initiate, he's dead?
I don't think that's a fair statement that could ever exist. There is obviously going to be a critical mass point for a Kog'Maw's strength, though, to the main point of that question. Like, you know, 3 items is always going to be that scary Kog'Maw mark. It's similar to a lot of AD carry champions, right? 3 core component items, and then you're just really dangerous.
Yeah.
But Kog'Maw being with a Lulu, I would say critical mass comes in at like the Ardent Sensor being done now that he has the Mikhails already, and 2 to 3 items for the Kog'Maw where he can just kill anybody. It's nice little fancy footwork there from Rare.
It was actually one of the players that we always get a little bit of excitement when he's ever on the Rift, always giving us something to behold from an entertainment perspective. As Ayla is quite content now, prepping bot wave, pushing things on in and giving himself up in that CS. Obviously has the Dead Man's Plate, one of the major items to make this time Kench work. But he's going to buy themselves some extra time. You're talking about that lull state of the game right now. Well, 30 seconds on Baron. Another 2 minutes until we've got this next Drake. Very slow game, and it's kind of what you expected from a match that features Pentanet. Only 2 kills for both sides.
There is, honestly, if they are active on the map, you should just gasp in shock. They're always super patient, they're always super passive. If they're ahead, if they're behind, if the game state is even, they tend to play this mid-game very cautiously. And it's frustrating to deal with for a lot of teams. You know, if they do all of the macro moves correctly, if they play the map appropriately, it can be frustrating to deal with. And that is actually a big part of why that you can make forced or unforced errors, more importantly, and give an opening to a team like Pentanet.gg who are just patient and able to find the right moment if they pick one at all.
Well, patience is one thing, and sacrifice is another, as Order, despite all this, do manage to find themselves with 4 turrets taken down to none. So definitely find themselves with lots of different openings to exploit the map, to get some deep vision, to really control where these gank attempts may take place and where they lit to set themselves up for a potential objective contest. They're going to find themselves a stable 4 to 5k lead. It's definitely been like that for the most part now, so major items are online for the people that do need it. So we start to wait, really, to see exactly where the priority goes towards. There have been some pings that have gone towards the Baron, but you'd imagine that the sole priority should be the major focus right now.
And hitting a lead of this amount, it goes without saying that you should be able to hit your item spike timings faster than that of your opponents, and that's really the key feature of a game of this pace. You know, Order are pretty much matching the tempo of Pentanet. They're happy to play slowly, but they are still the ones pressuring and with their front foot forwards, looking for these plays around the map. They're the ones who've broken all the turrets, like you mentioned. And so if I look at them and say, well, once you get your 2 item spikes, it's before that of your opponents, or once you get your 3 item spikes, it actually is there before your opponents, and that's when you start to force for these objectives. Both teams very fast at doing Baron, if they look towards it as an example. And so hit the item spikes that you need, and suddenly you just force at the Baron before your opponents are ready, and see how it goes.
Well, obviously, Rare will have that vision denial with the Umbral Glaive, making it very easily to one-tap those wards, and now we do finally have that second crucial item online with the Ginsus for the Kog'Maw. Ardent Sensor will be a little bit away, but Mikhails will give them that reliable CC, so no QSS, no Summoner Cleanse necessary. But this third Drake looks to be going ahead for 3 right now. Water will find themselves with 3 to their name. You start to wonder, what is the point in which Pentanet decide to force this fight out? 22 minutes into this game, you're looking at 30 minutes onwards as a situation in which these members have these major spikes, but the amount of structures that have gone down now, 5-0. Order playing calm, playing relaxed, definitely playing confident.
Yeah, and just taking what's theirs. You know, no response from their opponents, so no concerns to really reinvent the wheel or change what's happening in this game. There's always going to be the concern of your opponent scaling and hitting some kind of point of power, yes, but your lead right now is very large, and you should just be pretty confident in continuing to play it the way that you are and look for that next big step. You've got 4 minutes on the clock before the pressure is on Pentanet.gg more than it is on you if you will Order. So that's 4 minutes to perhaps just get vision control, play the blue side quadrant of their map, and maybe get some picks. If you don't get picks, that's fine, because the ball is still in your court to set up vision control and look towards both objectives that will be ready in 4 minutes.
Well, we talk about the scaling component of Cogmore again, but look at how well Harry is playing on this Azir. He is slapping the CS per minute right now, nearly at 300, only 23 minutes into this game. He is definitely giving Order a reason to believe right now with the gold income that they have. Definitely meaning that it's incredibly scary, right, for Pentanet to find that situation, to assess when they should be looking for those team fights, to decide when is the moment for them to engage. And you know, Order utilizing their vision control are going to clear things out. There's obviously the saving grace of the scuttle being available for them to see any sneaky Baron attempt, but no, Order are running them around the map right now.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, they've just given Hayri so much free time to farm. He's doing incredibly well. Like, all credit to him. You know, 300 CS at 24 minutes is super fast. Like, he has absolutely nailed the CS. But even looking at top lane difference, there's still a 40-odd CS advantage for Swiper, and bot lane's even. And the thing is, Order, while they are pressuring this Baron, they'll back away. They have been playing their side lanes much better. That's the difference right now. When you compare to what Pensanet.gg are doing, they're actually the ones playing as a group if they can and protecting their Cogmore as Sully's caught.
Sully is caught. He's in a bit of trouble right now. He's going to fall on down for free. No smite, no chance. Wrong place, wrong time. This is a bit of a disaster right now for Order because they needed to contest something. Baron is definitely available and that scuttle is just about to expire, if not gone now. Order in a situation where this should be definitely the start of the end.
Yeah, so the big strength is still there for Pentanet.gg, but one of their two frontline members is completely missing Order. They do this very quickly, so you have to check sooner or later if you're not afraid, as Swiper is teleported.
He has indeed. He's looking to make things happen, and as it stands right now, they are there as a zoning tool. A two-man completion on towards that Baron. Order hot in a driving seat. Abyssal Voyage comes on out to catch out Bio right now, burning out that flash, going to juke at the Sejuani slow. Members disengaged, someone is utilised. Order with all the cards in their possession.
Yeah, Order definitely in the driver's seat. Once again, no response from the opposing team of Pentanet.gg. Sully just gets caught. And then that's it. Baron's secured. And it was an Order that had control of the map already before Sully gets caught. So that pressure to face check is obviously a factor here. And I mean, comparing these two teams, you wouldn't say this is a battle for the potential of 4th place in the standings, would you? You would say that Order just seem to be outclassing their opponents right now.
Absolutely. They are definitely not afraid of what their opponent has drafted against them. They had an idea themselves. They gave away priority picks that are definitely very desirable on this current patch. And they said, we don't care. You can have that. We've got our own idea of ourselves. And obviously, as you said, Spawn very vocal about the strengths of the Wukong. And we wonder what their response would be. And so far, it has been fantastic. Now we're going to see a glimpse of the Kummer engage. The shield goes across all 5 members. Sully rocks on up with a spin to win, blocking up only, but not enough as he disengaged away cleanly. Senna with the cannon to keep these members in place as the TP comes out from Ayla, but without the Abyssal Voyage, very hard to collapse on them. And all the meanwhile, Baron buff empowers the bot lane as an inhibitor is now being threatened.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? They don't need to actually collapse in mid lane. They just need to keep them there, route them, take the long way towards bot lane with the turrets already being taken. And now they pressure mid lane while they're pressuring top and bottom at the same time. And they're breaking the base. That was the one punch from Pentanet.gg. And it swings and misses.
Completely misses there. As you say, 3 lanes pushed in right now, and Pentanet a little bit stunned as to where to respond. Strongest is 5, but being split up like this is definitely hurting them. And Order with the patience, utilising the Baron buff to empower the cannons to slowly whittle that inhibitor down. It will fall. Ellison topside working towards that second inhibitor turret. And Swiper is still sitting strong in the bot side too. Pentanet, incredibly paralysed right now.
Yeah, one inhibitor already broken, the second one sure to follow very soon. You've got Swiper still pressuring bottom lane at the moment. This lead that they have is only growing further and further. It's up to 10,000. And really, desperation's just been and gone for Pentanet.gg. They have to do something, but they're being engaged on.
They are indeed. Only jumps on in. The shield goes out. Panther looks to lock in place, but the Miz are frozen. It's like the ice caps melting because they are falling on down. That's 1 kill already. They look to find a second. Oh, Sully's gone. He's absolutely deleted. Harry finds that and makes sure that the Nexus turrets will fall on down. And Order don't mince their words. They kept their damage as Harry jumps in because he wants to look good on that one. A flawless performance by him from start to finish. The game is said and done. Order securing themselves with the most desirable of 4th place spots into this playoffs. They are definitely a contender coming into the gauntlet run.
Yeah, that was, 27 minutes they were able to win that one order. Very comprehensive, very easy for them, and start to finish, they had the advantages. The only time the Pentanet the GG looked like they were in the race was with the double kill in bot lane at like a level 3 gank. That was it. And from that moment onwards, and it's crazy to say this, but like only got a 1 camp advantage, got a slight tempo lead, and then from just that, they were able to get a dragon, transition to Herald. He was always 1 camp behind, and it felt like Order were not just 1 step ahead, it became 2, and then the game just exploded.
It exploded just like that, as you say, and now Order in a very comfortable spot to round out the rest of Week 10. Pentanet, back to the drawing board for them. The race for that coveted 5th spot continues, and we're going to jump to a quick break, and when we return, Week 10 continues.